There you go.
Yes, and that's why I shouldn't be running this thing. All right, here we go. This is live now. Hey, Hockey World, it's Friday, August 22nd, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I'm Eklund, and we have twice the Rimmers for you today that we normally would have in a normal day like this. We are really, really fortunate to have the incomparable Jeff Rimmer from Columbus. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. Well, actually, you're in Florida, right? So.
Pleasure, double your fun.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Dome and dome. There you go.
For sure. So Jeff, you did also. We have to talk about you just took part. We're recording this earlier, but you took part in the Ice Bucket Challenge. Quite impressive, I have to say. It was quite the scene. How'd that go for you? How did you enjoy it?
Well, when I was first informed by my new broadcast partner in the booth, Jody Shelley, former Flyer, I might add.
Yeah.
I wasn't too happy. I kind of told him, Jody, I don't want to do it. Leave me out of it. And of course, I think all I did was encourage Jody more.
Oh yeah.
Turnabout is fair play because I told Jody that I would get even, but I had probably as much enjoyment in the players that I certainly challenge, or the folks that I challenge, as much as I had doing it, because I got Jarmo Kekalainen out of his home in Finland to out into the Baltic Sea. Hitchcock, another former Philadelphia Flyer. How come everybody's at one time?
I don't know. It's like Philadelphia and Columbus have this connection. I don't know what it is, but they do.
Hitchcock had some things that I can't repeat here on a family program.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, so I'll let that slip by. And of course, Josh, after probably last night saying he really wasn't interested, got really excited about it. It's the truth we know.
50 degrees, so I don't know how excited I got, but.
Ryan Engblom,
good old Ryan.
A former broadcast partner of mine. I got him involved, and Aaron Portzline, the incomparable writer for the Columbus Dispatch. But I haven't heard from him since I texted him and told him that he's now on the clock.
Yeah, that's good.
He may be a little upset.
That's good. Well, I had one person who didn't get back to me too, and then you start to worry. You're like, okay, maybe this wasn't maybe they're going to hate me now. But no, he'll Engblom, he'll definitely do it.
But everybody on the Blue Jackets now, including the team owner, got involved. John P. McConnell, who was yesterday, or actually last week, last week was challenged Gary Bettman.
Yeah.
It is outside Double Eagle Golf Course just north. So everybody's getting involved, and it's for a great cause. And you hope that they just don't take the Ice Bucket Challenge, but as well they contribute to a very worthy cause in ALS.
Well, it's like my daughter, who's 13 years old. They did it at her camp, and she didn't have. She told me last night I was driving her soccer practice. She had no idea what ALS was this time last week, and now she does, and that's even something, just a public awareness that this is. They raised $25,000 last year during the same period of time it's amazing, and now they're well over I think 3 or 4 million. It's crazy.
Yeah.
5.7.
5.7.
Something on Twitter today, guys, that they are just off the charts and getting people to pledge here right now. So that's good news.
It's great. It's a perfect use of the internet, and it's a great thing for hockey people to do in this last 2 weeks of August, where there really is nothing going on in hockey for now. But that's about to change. I mean, Jeff, last year was just the playoff run was just phenomenal. I mean, watching it from afar, I told Josh before that the one comeback game in Columbus, watching it with my kids and just they had never really been into a Blue Jackets game before. Never, they don't watch too many hockey games here because they get kind of sick of it. And that game was out of reach. It was 3-0 in the first period, but it was just that feeling. I don't know. I said, no, we're gonna watch this game. I don't know. There was something about it. That must have been. I mean, you've covered a ton of games. Where does that rank in the history?
Right up there with one of the best. We've got a thunderstorm going on here right now.
Nice.
In case that comes through. But no, it was certainly one of the highlights of my career. And boy, I'll tell you what, that is a team that never says die, and that was the case all season long.
Yeah.
The fact that with what the team, particularly the young players, tasted last year, I know for a fact they can't wait to get on the ice this year. And there's a growing confidence in a young dressing room. And a lot of people expect big things from this hockey team. And I noticed where Hockey News came out with their season preview. And from what I understand, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard that they're now labeling the Jackets as the Beasts in the East. I don't know if I go that far, but certainly they will be a club to be contended with as we hit the 14-15 season.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and then they were the youngest team in the NHL last year, correct? So that isn't an astonishing thing in and of itself. I mean, this is a team that doesn't seem like they're rebuilding, and yet, I mean, I guess Jarmo's done a heck of a job.
Jarmo, Kekalainen, John Davidson, of course, started it by joining the hockey club as president of the operations, and everybody well aware. Can you hear that thunder?
Wow, that was something.
Lightning.
Wow, yeah, that was crazy.
So I told you guys were in trouble with two rimmers on.
Wrath of God stuff now, yeah. So Jarmo's done a great. What are you doing? The Beast in the East. There it is. Josh has it from the Hockey News.
New Beasts of the East.
New Beasts of the East. They are. I'll tell you the one thing. They came in, and Scotty Hartnell brought this up too in his press conference. I wanted to talk to you about that too. But when they came into Philly a couple times, and that one game that was probably the best game the Flyers, one of the most exciting games last year, when it was the comeback with the Claude Giroux goal at the end. That was a crazy game to go to that I was at last year. But the Blue Jackets just reminded me of everything I'd hate about great forechecking teams. They were so difficult to play against. I mean, they reminded me of a lot of the Devils teams that gave the Flyers fits for years and just never stopped. They never stopped their feet moving.
Let me tell you, that game that you're talking about,
yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that game probably cost the Blue Jackets a chance to match up against the New York Rangers in the first round.
Yeah.
The Rangers in no way, shape, or form wanted to take on the Blue Jackets in the opening round of the playoffs because it might have been a different story.
Well, that's the crazy thing about it is, too, that kept the Flyers away from the Penguins, who the Flyers would have rather played, too.
Exactly.
And
funny how things work, huh?
It is, and that was definitely the way. I mean, I'm still to this day, the Flyers beating the Penguins on the last game of the season on a really weird goal by Marc-Andre Fleury just kind of set the whole thing in motion. But as you've seen before, the playoffs are so much about matchups. It's insane.
Well, I think that it's going to be an interesting season. Obviously, I think the division will be even tighter this year. I think Washington certainly improved. Obviously, the Flyers have made some changes. It'll be interesting to see what the final product looks like. I can tell you the Jackets are thrilled to have Scott Hartnell. I think you're in the dressing room. I think that Scott Hartnell as well will play the Blue Jacket brand of hockey, and I think it bodes well for the team in the city.
He's one of the nicest guys around too. Just you can't. I mean, Scotty, ever since he was in Nashville, ever since he came in the league, he's been one of the nicest people I've known. And I know it was tough for him because he had sort of figured that he was just going to be here, but then quickly he's such an optimistic guy. It didn't take long for him to figure out that this was a better situation for him and that he was excited. And that's just the way. Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, Jeff, the Blue Jackets defense, you have a couple of veterans, offensive defensemen, and Jack Johansson and Wisniewski. Fedor Tutin's more a stay-at-home guy. Ryan Murray last year as a rookie, and he was out the entire previous year with a shoulder injury. How did he play last year, and what are your expectations of him going forward?
Well, my expectations, I think, are as high as anybody in the organization, and I think his upside is tremendous. I think that's why he was a second overall pick. If not for an Edmonton Oilers owner who interceded in the selection of Nail Yakupov, he would have been the number one pick by the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, and go back to training camp last year, both Ryan Murray and Boone Jenner were both expected to start the season in Springfield in the American Hockey League. They both earned jobs out of training camp. And Ryan Murray seemed to, and if you just look at his ice time, it increased throughout the season. His point production increased throughout the season. He had a knee injury that kept him out 5 or 6 games, but he has a tremendous upside. He sees the ice well. His first pass is terrific. He's got a shot from the point. I think that you'll see him grow into a top 1 or 2 defenseman in the National Hockey League, if he's not already. And one thing that is certain as well, he elevated the game of James Wisniewski. Wisniewski signed years back to that long-term contract, and boy, he struggled early on. Certainly got involved in his first season in a preseason game with Kyle Clutterbuck and was suspended. And that was a pretty hefty suspension, both from a games perspective as well as from a financial perspective. And his season was never really underway because, quite frankly, he never got off the ground. Then you bring in a kid like Ryan Murray and you pair him up with Wisniewski. And I give Craig Hartsburg, surprise, another former Flyer, give him credit because he's the one that put the two together. and his development certainly was, I think, one of the real strong points of the season.
Yeah, he reminds me so much of Scotty Niedermeyer. It's crazy. Like that and when I watch him, it just really, I mean, that's a high praise, obviously. And you don't want to put something like that on a kid, but my gosh, the way he skates and like you say, that first quick pass, that's so Scott Niedermeyer to me.
You know the fact that his favorite player is Scott Niedermeyer.
I didn't know that. I did not know that. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that at all. He's a Columbus. I mean, is that why he wears that number? He wears number 27, right?
And let me go a step further. Go back to junior in Everett where he played, and I was told this by the stick manufacturer. Somehow there was a Scott Niedermeyer stick in the Everett training room, or the team's equipment manager. And, of course, Ryan Murray, being such a fan, grabbed the stick, took the pattern, and told the stick manufacturer he wanted the Scott Niedermeyer stick.
That's awesome.
But he also wanted Niedermeyer's name on the stick. When he got to the National Hockey League, they ordered the sticks, and the Jackets took it upon themselves saying, hey, no more Niedermeyer's name on the stick. It's now Ron Murray's name. But that is the Niedermeyer pattern.
Wow, so he is really hardcore on. I totally, you can see it, and you do wonder about Edmonton's choice in that. And just, it was such a great, it turned out to be such a fortunate thing. Josh?
Yeah, what's the latest with Ryan Johansson right now?
Ryan Johansson expected back in Columbus this week. I think that before training camp it'll get done. I think the two sides are a little bit closer. But, hey, the Jackets hope, as does the Ryan Johansson camp, that it doesn't take until training camp or beyond. Similar situation a couple of years ago with Subban, who sat at the start of the season. I think that the two sides will get it together. And for me, an indicator was there's sometimes animosity developed between an agent and a hockey team. Well, look at Brandon Dubinsky. Dubinsky signed that long-term contract early on this summer, and Chris Oberhart is the agent for Dubinsky. He's also the agent for Johansson. So there's really not the animosity. I think once they get down to the short strokes, they'll get this thing done.
I like what they're doing because, I mean, again, Jarmo, I just think that there's no reason to do, kind of what Edmonton did with their young kids and throw these major, big-time contracts at them right away and then put yourself in a bind. I mean, he's going to make that money eventually. He's a star, but there's really no reason to put themselves behind the eight ball like that.
No, you're right. The Jackets did that a couple of years ago under Scott Howson. Where did it get them?
Right.
Scott Howson was of the idea. He went back to the whole Moneyball theory of signing players, letting them grow together, and it didn't work out. No, I think you'll see a bridge-type contract done. We'll wait and see what the final terms are. But Johansson, and I'll tell you what, this kid does not know how good a hockey player he is. I tell him that. He smiles. He is just a terrific kid. He's an outstanding hockey player, and his upside is there's no end to it. He can be a dominating force in this league if he's not already.
He already is. Josh?
Another big acquisition in the offseason, Scott Hartnell. Were you surprised when you saw that the Columbus Blue Jackets were able to get him out of Philly?
Well, I was surprised at the end of the day because I didn't think that they could get as much as they got for R.J. Umberger.
Yeah.
Umberger certainly struggled here in each of the last two seasons. He's a good person. Obviously, his home is going to continue to be in Columbus. He loves it there. He went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Established roots. I thought he was really classy after the trade. That said that his kids will grow up to be Blue Jacket fans. I hope and wish him well, certainly in Philadelphia. I think it was a great trade by Jarmo Kekalainen and really a super deal by the organization because they pick up a player that I think is very much a leader, which this young hockey club needs.
The thing I've noticed about Scotty Hartnell all these years from watching him play is, he will have moments when he doesn't seem like he's on his game or when he's sort of off, and then he will find his game out of sort of nowhere and then take over in the middle of a second period and then for the next 2.5 weeks be the best player on the ice. And and especially against the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is of course a great thing. He is just such a Penguin killer and has scored some of the most beautiful goals that I've seen in his career against the Penguins. And the Penguins Jackets rivalry, I mean it's a wonderful thing. It's got to be great.
It's great for the city, great for the team, great for the organization. Of course, they have a rivalry with Detroit. Glad to see Detroit come over to the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, the Philadelphia, New York Ranger, and Pittsburgh Penguin rivalries will be every bit as good as what that Detroit rivalry has been through the first, decade plus of the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, and nothing will get a rivalry going like last year's playoff series with the Penguins. I mean, that's a catalyst if there ever was one. I mean, come on, that already had the proximity, but my gosh, now you got a lot going on.
Sidney Crosby spent the week down here in Florida, and I think he was doing a commercial or two and working out with a number of other players. I was hoping to bump into him somewhere around town, and quite frankly, we could have. I'll tell you, I love Sidney Crosby as a player. I love him as a person even more. He's a very humble young man, and I know he frustrated the Blue Jackets frustrated him, and it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back, because we didn't see the real Sidney Crosby in that playoff series or throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, or the playoffs. Yeah, Mike?
Jeff, I was impressed with what the Blue Jackets did last year without Nathan Horton for most of the season. He was limited to 35 games because of a shoulder injury. They signed him for 7 years. I think he's an integral part of the team this year. What are your thoughts on the positioning of Nathan Horton and where he factors in with the Jackets this upcoming?
He's a top 6 forward. The Jackets hope that when training camp opens, he is healthy. He had 2 major surgeries last year, of course. First, the shoulder, which the Jackets knew going in. I think that Nathan wanted to make a contribution, and this just shows what a great kid he is. He wanted to make a contribution to the hockey club. He perhaps came back a little bit too soon, not so much from the standard of the shoulder injury and subsequent surgery, but more so just getting into game shape. And what happened, Mike, was the fact that I think he came back way too soon and ended up tearing his groin and having that sports hernia surgery earlier on this summer, or earlier on in late in the season. And he needs to be 100% healthy and be in his top shape physically to have an impact on this hockey team, because everybody saw what he did for the Boston Bruins, and he can do that certainly for the Jackets. And just think of the top 6. Yeah. I think it's tough for Todd Richards to put a top 6 together based on a healthy Horton, obviously a healthy, and let's hope that's the case all season long for Scott Hartnell, plus urging player that I think that Boone Jenner has a tremendous upside. If not skating, he would have been a high first-round pick. I think he's worked on that skating. He deserved the opportunity to start the season with the hockey club. He made the best of it. And I thought if you looked through that playoff series with Pittsburgh, he might have been the most effective player. And they had many, and Foligno and Dubinsky and Ryan Murray, and just go right down the list. But I think Boone Jenner's presence got under the skin of the Pittsburgh Penguins from the opening face-off of that playoff series. So, I think the Jackets can put together a tremendous top 6 and be a tough competitor in this Eastern Conference if they have a very healthy Horton and a healthy rest of the hockey club.
Now, Jenner and Murray, 2 rookies that come in and make an immediate impact. Do you see a guy like Kirby Reichel or a Wenberg or a Yarmulson, or any of these guys, making the team this year or having an impact anywhere close to those guys that they had last year?
Well, the guy to me that probably will push some of the veterans on that hockey club is Alexander Wenberg. He is tremendously skilled. Comparisons being made to a number of top Swedes that have come over here with a strong and keen eye to be a top 6 forward in the National Hockey League. And I think that Wenberg showed us in the development camp, and he will continue with the rookie camp and ultimately the main camp to show that he's coming over here to win a spot. So it'll be interesting to see how things go, but he's tremendously skilled. Big, strong, great skater, sees the ice well, makes a great pass, and certainly has the ability to put the puck in the net as well.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple people about him who've loved him. It's funny, I'll leave you with this, Jeff, just to prove about how hardworking the team is. I coach my daughter's 13-year-old soccer team, and one of the things we try to do to get them to play the entire game is we count battles that they win on the field. So we say we want to win 100 battles in the game. So that's every time they're one-on-one with a player, try to win that battle. And if they win it, we give them a number, and through the game we'll yell out like number 45 that they're 45 in or whatever. And they said to me, well, one of the girls said, you cover hockey. What team plays like that? And I said, I'm going to show you a video. So I brought in a video of the Blue Jackets actually playing against, because I said, this is a team that wins every single battle. And they might not have a whole lot of talent, but they have, and they do have talent, but not maybe the talent other teams have. But it proves that if you win every little battle, you know you're going to be successful, and that they're the epitome of that to me.
Right. Well, you got obviously Wenberg, Dano, Reichel will come to camp.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how things develop. The Jackets certainly have left some room if these players deserve to be on the hockey club, and what both Jarmo Kekalainen and John Davidson have said repeatedly, they won't decide who's on the team. The players will themselves. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at camp.
Great to have those competitions. Real quick, the last thing, Bunk Tuesday 44 wanted to know, you've actually got a history with Nathan Horton that goes back to Florida, correct? So you've been around Nathan since he came in.
Right. When he was an 18-year-old and I was with the Florida Panthers, he's represented by a good friend of mine, Bobby Orr.
Mm-hmm.
And Bobby made the introduction. And Nathan, when he was in Florida, spent a number of nights at our place. He had his own place, but he used to love to come over. He's a big hockey fan, and we'd watch hockey, and he'd have dinner, and sometimes spend late into the night before, never after curfew, I might add.
Of course.
I mean, you will not meet a kid that is more excited and more approachable than Nathan Horton. Always got a smile on his face, and he's a great kid, and we've got a pretty strong relationship for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, good luck with everything this year. You know, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And have fun in Florida. Hope you guys survive the storms down there.
We usually get a storm every afternoon, but that's okay. And we'll be heading back to Columbus here pretty quick and getting ready for the season. And
Nice.
I think it's going to be great. Gary Bettman, as I said, was in Columbus last week. And, boy, I'll tell you, he was talking the superlatives about the city of Columbus. And, by the way, we've got the All-Star game next January. And I strongly urge everybody that certainly is part of this podcast and watching, or certainly follow you and your group there, that they're more than welcome to come to Columbus, because they're really in for something. I'm tired of hearing people thinking in terms of Columbus not being a sports city or an NHL. I think that was turned around in the playoffs last year, and I encourage everybody to come to Columbus for either a game or the All-Star game.
No question. We'll be down there. I'll be down there for sure. I was down there for the draft last time. I was down there for a national event, but I came down for some games too. And it is a really great atmosphere. I can't say enough about it. It just has a combination of like a hockey city, a Canadian city, a college city. It's sort of somewhere in the middle of all of them. It's got little bits and pieces of each of them.
People don't realize, but Columbus is actually a bigger city than both Cincinnati and Cleveland to the north.
Yeah. So. Wow, so it's been it's a really, and it's got a great tradition. So, thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you. Have a good weekend. Without the buzz, it's just hockey talk to you then. Thanks.